Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Having navigated her own version of rock bottom, Sarah shares her heartful journey of resilience and transformation. Sarah is a multi talented human being, a mom, wife, and mental health advocate who is on a mission to disrupt the pattern of increasing mental health statistics and make the world a place to which people want to belong. So, without further ado, let's welcome Sarah Lux to Speak Up Queen.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Sarah, what was the most challenging limiting belief you had to overcome, and how did breaking free from it help you reclaim your voice?
So, one of the most limiting beliefs that I believed for a really long time was that I was unlovable. And that came from a incident that happened when I was 18. And I went on my own journey of version of rock bottom. And that continued to affect me throughout life to almost to the point where I felt like I had become a monster. And my husband of almost have we've been together for 14 years. I nearly walked out and said, "You guys deserve better. I am not lovable. I am a monster. I am not worthy of this love." And the man that he is, he turned around to me and said, "Well, I do love you, and you do matter, and you're not going anywhere." And it wasn't until I actually really discovered that we have these things called universal fears, that we're not good enough, we don't belong, and that we're unlovable. And I had been feeding this limiting belief for so long, thinking that eventually it would go away. Maybe perhaps that if I watered the plants instead of the weeds would go. But no matter how intentional you are when you're watering and looking after your garden, the weeds will still grow. But it's just how much time I spent there. And it wasn't until I went on my own, what I call returning to wholeness journey, that I was able to really step into that and go, well, that's going to be there. It's a universal fear. And there may be things that I do that I might not love all the time, but I did choose them in that moment, but I get to choose something different now. And that was when I really got to allow my past to stop directing my future, allowing what happened in my past to control my direction of my future and how I was behaving in the present. And when I got to return to the essence of me, when I got to remove the masks, release and resolve the traumatic imprints that had happened throughout my life, when I really got to step back into the inner essence that I have, that I was born with, that's when my own self-love really shone through. And from that, I've not really ever thought that I was unlovable. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. And as I tell my children, not all paint colors mix. Sometimes you mix with paint colors and you get these beautiful array of different colors, but sometimes you get colors that just don't vibe together, that don't work together, and that's okay. And so from me being able to return to who I was, back into my inner essence, to really highlight and tap into my individual spark that I have as a human being, and really hone in and stand into my own personal power, that's when that limiting belief drifted away and I stopped feeding, yes, again, that it's a universal fear, it's going to be there, but I stopped giving it any intention. I stopped giving it attention. There's no thought that goes behind it. It's like, oh yeah, that's playing out again. That's okay. Let's move on. What are some things that I can do to show myself? I really like who I am. I love spending time with myself. I enjoy my own company. I think I'm hilarious at times. So, you know, I'm able to really sit in that place and go, I really like who I am. If there comes a time where maybe perhaps that I'm doing something that is incongruent with who I am, where maybe I'm not living in alignment with my values, maybe perhaps there might be some, beliefs from childhood that aren't actually mine, then I get a chance to be really intentional with it and say, okay, well, I'm going to give where it has gotten me, because it's obviously supported me up until this point. It's served me for a reason and a purpose at some point in life. And if it doesn't serve me now, I love myself enough to let it go. I love myself enough to find a new way to do something. I love myself enough to learn more. And I love myself enough to keep returning back to myself.
I love it. I really do love. It's just how we believe those limiting beliefs. It's just so scary that we still sometimes that voice still comes up. It doesn't disappear or goes away and it's gone forever. It's a journey. It is really healing is definitely a journey and it's messy, but it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth saying, I don't want to stay in victim mode. I want to reclaim my crown and just thrive.
And I say this to people that I work with that, it begins as if it's an onion. We start this, removing of layers, and it's an onion. It's stinky. They make you cry. Sometimes they're really hard to peel back. Some are thicker than others. Some break off, and there's still some residue from some of the layers there. And there's two things that are inevitable in life. Number one is change, and number two is death. And we get a choice of what we choose to change. What we don't change, we're choosing, right? And so we want to move from being and having this onion, these sticky, thick layers that make you cry, to a leak. They're more transparent. They slide off easier. If they, break off, it's easy to get back in there. They don't make you cry as much. They're thinner. And, when we do start our journey, whatever that looks like, whether, you're using, you say healing or returning to wholeness or removing the masks or whatever it is for them or the individual, it's really important that we recognize that we've got to start somewhere, and that when we do go on this process, when we do go on this journey of self-discovery, we get to transition from the onion to the leek, and it does happen eventually. And then when you're at that stage and you're operating more of a leek and the layers are being pulled back, it's so much more freeing. It's so much easier when things come up for you that you're like, oh, I don't really like how I do that, or that belief's actually not serving me anymore. It's an easier process.
Mhm.
It might be harder at the start because, like anything you do when you're getting momentum, to what's the analogy that they use about pushing the car up a hill or the boulder up a hill? Like it's hard work at first. It might seem to go slower, but once you're up the top of the hill and the car or the boulder's rolling down, there's momentum. And that's where I think if we continue to allow to put ourselves first and ensure, because we can't pour from an empty cup. And if our cups are overflowing, the people around us receive our overflow. But if our cups are half empty, there's room for judgment, shame, limiting beliefs, guilt, resentment, and all of those things that we don't really want to experience in our life to come into our cup. But if we're overflowing and our cup is constantly overflowing, the people around us receive our overflow. And I mean, we spoke briefly before, we're both mothers. And I don't know about you, but I would love my children to constantly have my overflow. so that when they're, right to the end of school and we're coming up to Christmas and they might be tired and everyone's over it, and then we're coming into the festive season and we become busier, and they're fatiguing more, and they've done this whole year at school, whatever that looks like for them, and they just want a break. And if their cup is maybe a little bit less full, they're receiving our overflow. So I think for me, whenever we talk about how we can fill our own cups, it's, that same analogy that they use on the airplane. You got to put your own air mask on first before you can help anyone else. It's the same here. So when we take that step, when we finally, especially as mothers or as women, we have that so much courage to take that first step, to really invest in ourselves and to say, this isn't serving me anymore. I need some help. I need some support. I want something different. I have this innate desire within me that there's something more out there for me. And when we have the courage and the determination to step into that process, we're pushing that boulder up that hill, and then we get to the top where it begins to roll down and those leak skins just come off easily and effortlessly.
Love it. Can you share a moment when someone's words or actions made you feel small and how you found the strength to rise above it?
So I was 18 when I was assaulted. I had someone break into my house, and when I had the courage, I have a great relationship with my mother and a beautiful family support. Very blessed, and I'm very grateful for that. My mum took me to go and see a counselor, a mental health professional. And I remember being in this room, there was a brick wall in front of me, books along the side there, and I was sitting in this corner. The door was to the right of me, and the lady was off there in front of me to the right. And she looked at me over her glasses. It was a real defining moment in my life. And she said, "What did you do to bring this upon yourself?" And I was 18 at the time. And I just turned around and I said, "Pardon?" Now, my mum has always told me that I've got a little bit of spunk. Maybe perhaps other people call that attitude. I like to call it, sparkly essence, maybe. And I just looked at her and I went, "Huh? What did I do to bring this upon myself? Absolutely nothing." And if it wasn't for the unconditional love that I had within my family dynamic, I would have stayed in that room and I would have internalized it, but I didn't. I stood up when this woman has no idea what she's talking about for my situation. And I went downstairs and my mum was like, "Oh, that was a quick session." And I said, "We're leaving." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "We're leaving. I'm not seeing this lady. Like, she doesn't believe me." And that didn't serve me at all whatsoever. I needed these reports to go to court and everything like that. So I needed to have people on my team. But I remember I was younger, and this is a separate incident completely. I was in grade 4 and I spelt sandwich wrong. So I spelt sand as SAND and then witch as WITCH. And at the time, and I have the utmost compassion for this lady, she had lost a child at the age that I was at. So teaching this age group she wasn't in the best environment. And back then, there wasn't the support that we have now in place. And I was put in the corner. I was told that I was a stupid little girl, and that belief stayed with me for a really long time throughout uni, throughout high school, and even onto further education, when someone asked me and they said, "Whose voice is that belief in?" And it was one of my mentors and trainers who's now a beautiful, dear friend of mine. And I said, "Pardon?" She goes, "Whose voice is that?" I said, "I hear the teacher's voice." She said, "It's not yours." It's not yours to keep. So are you going to choose, do you want to choose to give it back to her or not? And I just went, wow. For so long, I have let this lady really direct my future. It was as if she was holding my shoulders saying, nope, you can't go there. You're not smart enough. Nope, you can't be in that room. You're not smart enough. And as soon as I was able to let go of that belief, I've gone on and done my master's in human behavior, and I've become a trainer, and I'm able to sit here and empower parents through programs and things that I run. And for so long, I wouldn't have done any of the stuff that I have done if she had continued to direct it. And at the same time, I'm really grateful, because if I hadn't had those beliefs directing, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. So it's like a catch-22, those beliefs really, they hurt at the time. And I really doubted myself for so long. And now I'm on the other side of that hill, down the end of it, and maybe climbing up some others, that I can sit there and I can go, I've got so much gratitude and compassion for that woman. And she was doing the best that she could with what she had at the time. And I'm really grateful, because without that belief that I chose to carry for so long, because it did serve me to some extent in weird and wonderful ways, that I'm now here and I'm able to do what I do now.
Oh, I love it. I just love the journey that you're sharing. Sarah, what safety resources, spaces, or tools have been most impactful for your healing journey?
So for me, gosh, there's so many. The most impactful would have to be, for so long, I've listened to myself. And that feeling, that feeling in your gut, when you're like, this is what you need to do. And sometimes your heart and your head tell you different things. And sometimes you don't listen to that instinct, that intuition. And sometimes I have overridden that gut intuition, but when I have listened to it, oh my goodness, has the space created so much. I have been able to trust, like, I didn't want to leave my husband. It is the man that I love and adore. He's the father of my children. I didn't like who I was, and that's because I didn't have, well, I mean, children will unravel and bring to the surface what you no longer need. And as a mum of 3, I have been blessed with many things that I have been able to release and resolve and let go. And so for me, it's like, okay, this is the next step. This feels right. This is the next one. And I mean, I could go on. I'm almost, 38 years old, and I have been in the personal development space since I was 15. So that's over 15 years that I have been choosing to do different things in different times, in different areas for myself. And for me, it was always putting myself first, like trusting myself that I am enough and that I do deserve this. Just like I believe that we're born with that inner essence, that inner spark that makes us us, and we're all worthy of love. We're all worthy of having the best life that we possibly can. It just takes that grit, just takes that listening, it just takes that going, this is a right place for me, and really listening to ourselves and developing that self-trust. There's been nothing that I don't think that in my life where I haven't kind of been like, I haven't got this. And, I've always thought like, this, whatever is happening to me, it's happening for a reason. And I don't know what that reason is, And I may not like the reason, and I definitely don't like the situation that I'm currently in right now when I'm in my version of rock bottom. But it's just that belief that I was enough, that no matter what, even when I felt like I wasn't enough, there were times where I'd put myself in some really dangerous, when I was in my own version of rock bottom, where I would put myself in really dangerous situations, hoping that I would be eradicated from the planet. But when I never was, I was like, I would question and say, well, okay, so I'm here for a reason and I'm here for a purpose. I don't know what that is, but I'm just going to keep taking one day at a time, one moment at a time, and trust that no matter what comes up, that I will be able to navigate it, whether it be by myself or with the people that I've been able to have in my life that grow, that love and adore me as well.
What's one powerful lesson you've learned about self-worth, and how do you carry it with you as you continue to grow and inspire others?
I think we're all worthy. I think that every single person is born worthy. I believe that we all have, the magic of children. If we take a step back and actually go, okay, we're born into this planet, a child is born. They've got this magic about them. They see this life through wonder and curiosity. And as we grow and we maybe put masks on and we try different things on, and some things fit and some things don't, and sometimes we get lost along the track and we can't remember which mask we've put on for what environment. I wholeheartedly believe that every single person on the planet is worthy, and this mission that we are on is to really make this world a place where people want to belong. And if I get to be the mirror to someone else's magnificence, like people have been the mirror to my own magnificence, then that's a blessing, because I wholeheartedly believe that we are worthy. Everyone is worthy of breath. Everyone is worthy of life. And we're worthy because we're just us. Throughout my journey, it's again been that I was blessed with unconditional love. Sometimes it was conditional because, I grew up back in the 80s. And they were doing the best they can with what they got. There was shame-based parenting back then. And if you weren't shaming your children, your community was shaming you. And we know different now. But there was still unconditional love. Like, I was loved just because I was a part of this family. And I am very blessed that I've been able to amplify that within my own family and as a grown-up within my own family and with other parents and people that I work with. But I think we all have this essence that makes the world magical. And it's just been something from being a child where I've gone, no, like, I will sit and I will listen to you because you have a story to tell, or I will compliment people just because they're there. And we're in this together. What I do can impact generations down the path, and what I don't do can still impact generations down the path. So at the end of the day, I think that the worth that I have had, that I was loved, poured into, that my mum didn't probably give back to herself at times, and now she is. So that's a beautiful blessing to see. But I just believe we're all worthy. I really do. And, again, everyone's doing the best they can with what they've got. And that's what keeps me going. But again, there's people who aren't yet there. And I really hope that if you are listening to this and you're in that place where maybe perhaps you're not there yet, take my belief in you. Because you matter. You matter on this planet. Your essence is magical, and the impact that you can create just by being here is a phenomenal gift that you're able to give. And if you might not believe that you're loved, know that I love you. Or if you don't believe that you're worthy, know that take my belief.
Yes.
Take that and hold on to it, because sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes we need the belief in others. And when I haven't believed in myself, when I haven't felt that I was worthy of investing money in myself to go on my healing journey, my husband believed I did.
Yes.
And so in those moments, I took on his belief. And maybe perhaps we don't have a husband like I do. He's a phenomenal human being. And take his belief, because we both believe that every single person on this planet matters. And sometimes when we take away the tunnel vision, the foveal view that we've got, and we really expand and take a step back, and instead of go, 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 and we just be, the birds won't exist without the trees, and the trees won't exist without the dirt, and the dirt wouldn't exist without the worms and the beetles and everything. It's like we're our own ecosystem, and that we all play a role into each other's part. And there could have been one thing that you've done out there, that maybe perhaps you brought a coffee for someone, you told someone that they looked radiant today, maybe perhaps you were really kind to someone, gave up your seat, and you just don't know what people are going through. And that can change the absolute trajectory of someone else's life. Like, think of how many musicians write songs that support people in their darkest times. I will never get to meet certain artists that have really, held a space in my heart, but their musics and their lyrics had resonated with me in a time where I didn't believe in myself. And so just taking that lyric and holding it true to me, going, well, they think that this, so let's just hold on to that.
I love
So I
it.
hope that answers the question.
Oh, definitely. It is like there is so many women out there who fought for our rights. There's so many women who wrote books about their journeys that we can just go and read to these generational mentors that have walked the walks already. And there's so many things out there that we can learn from, because we are never too old to learn. And I don't want to ever stop learning. It's for me like I love learning new
Yeah.
things and getting to level up in life, if I can say it like that. So yeah, it's definitely in music also, especially when your heart is broken and Westlife is coming up, or Backstreet Boys or anything like that, and you are just crying because it is like they just know me, they know the song, or
Yeah.
it is just, oh, I know
As
exactly
if
that.
they wrote that song just for you.
Yes.
For you, for that moment. And, there's so much history and so many lessons and so many things that we can take away by the women who have walked before us, to be able to guide, who have shined the light. And, I say this often, like, we'll parents, and again, it's because I work with parents, but parenting, my parents got to the best level that they could, right? At the time that I was in their full care. That's where I start from. I start from their best. So then I do my best, because we're green and growing instead of ripe and rotting, right? Life learners. I do my best. My children are already 2 levels above. My children are then going to do their best, and then their children, if they choose to have it, it's going to go there, do their best. So, and that's the beauty of it, is that we get to, the more that we, again, what we don't change, we choose. And we get a choice to go, okay, well, is this really how I want my life to be? And if not, what do I get to do about it? And we can get really resourceful in and around that time, because there are so many women, so many humans who have done things before. It's going back to even the 4-minute mile, people didn't think it was possible beforehand until someone did it, until someone made it possible. And then it was like bang, 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 bang. So it's like, okay, well, if that's something that I want over there, who's done that or something similar to that I can model? And one of the modalities that I do is NLP, which is based off modeling excellence. Where can I model excellence in my field? Where can I model excellence to get the goals that I want? Whether that's in my relationship, whether that's in parenting, whether that's in business, whether that's in career, whether that's in finance or money, whatever it is, what can I do? Who can I model? Who's got what I want or done what I want to do? So I can copy them. There's no new ideas. It's just new ways of doing things. And so that's that whole evolution and being able to continuously evolve and elevate throughout our lives and our generations.
If you could tell your 17-year-old self one thing, what would it be and why?
My 17-year-old self, goodness me. If I could tell my 17-year-old self, I would just look her in the eye and tell her that you've got this. I wouldn't change anything of my past, because if I change even one thing or that 1%, the whole, you change the compass or the trajectory by 1%, you can miss a country completely. You've got this. No matter what life throws at you, you've got it. No matter what happens, you've got it. No matter how hard it might be at times, you come through it at the end. You've got this. And again, and I had this conversation yesterday in and around resilience with another girlfriend of mine who lives in Bali. And we were talking about what resilience means. And I said, for me, underneath resilience is grit. And that grit comes from, again, like, no matter what life throws at me, I've got it. It's as if it's that self-trust, that inner knowing that, whether it be going through labor and giving birth, that the pain isn't stronger than I am because my body's creating the pain, or whether I'm at my own version of rock bottom, when I was going through court and the assault and things like that. And it was like, I've got this. No matter the outcome, I know what it's like. I've got this. And, in recent years, my daughter, my youngest, she had an accident, which she had a head trauma. She fell back, hit the side of her head. Anyway, we went through this whole ordeal. We were found not guilty by the pediatric forensic science because she was under a certain age and they thought there might have been child abuse involved. And we were cleared of all of it. And the detective pulled me aside and she's like, oh, thank you so much. You've been so cooperative. And, I'm so sorry that we had to put you through all of this. And she's like, you've handled it really well. And I just went, I know, because I know who I am in myself. I know that I didn't do it. And so again, no matter what hardships, that if I was to look at my 17-year-old self, no matter what hardships in life, no matter what gets thrown your way, it's as if you're Neo from the Matrix when all the bullets go at him and he's standing there and he's got his hand out and he's like, bring it on. Because you have this. You can handle anything that life throws at you because you've got it. And you matter enough to know that you just got to keep moving forward. Put one step in front of the other. Cross that bridge when you get there. And no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. and having all of those things like play off all the time. Again, when I hit things or this or, you know, doubt creeps in or whatever it is, it's like, is this a fact or is it a story? Because so many times we can feed the story. And how often am I cleaning out my mental lint? You know, because I don't know any human being on the planet that I have met thus far that can do a load in the dryer where the dryer doesn't have lint come out. It always happens. And it's as if that's like our brain. We have our mental lint. So how often are we cleaning our filter? And so I would tell my 17-year-old self that you've got this, put yourself first, people will get your overflow, and keep going because you matter and you're worth it.
Definitely. How do you define thriving today, and what mindset shifts or practices helped you embrace that definition?
Thriving, I love that word. But it means something different for every single person. So my definition of thriving would be living the life that I choose to, living my life on my terms. So for me, that comes back to what I call flow. And basically, that's the freedom to choose where I spend my time. It's the freedom, where can I flow? So am I flowing to my family? Am I flowing to my children? Am I flowing to my businesses? Where am I flowing in this given moment? Because sometimes if I'm launching a new product or service, I might need to flow into my business a little bit more. If my children are having some hardship, you can best be sure I'm flowing that way and I'm there for them if they need me. Because for me, the only thing that I ever wanted out of life from a really young age was to become a mum. You know, there was other things. I wanted to be Cinderella at Disneyland and I was too tall to be a princess, apparently. Yeah, go figure. There's a height limit on princesses. But, you know, the only thing as far back as I can remember before being Cinderella is that I always wanted to be a mum. I've always loved children. It was as if I was like Pied Piper. Even as a child, children would flock and they still flock to me. It's quite funny. Why I have such a big car. But, you know, it's thriving for me is if I want to pour into my relationship, I can. If I want to pour into my children, I can. If I want to pour into myself, I can. I've got those communication skills. I know how to set boundaries. I know how I meet my needs and I meet them in really helpful and resourceful ways. Have tools and strategies with my children that they can communicate to me what they need from me. And they're 9, 8, and 5. And from a really young age, they've been able to do that. I've been able to create friendships that if I want to choose to go out with them, I've got that. My husband and I were a team. We have been very intentional in creating that relationship. We have been very intentional with creating how we choose to parent. And for me, that's thriving. Living my life on my terms, the way that I choose to, spending my time, my space, my money, my energy where I want to, not where I need to. And being able to, you know, look at life and say, this is this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to live. That's thriving for me. And at times in different seasons in life, that's looked different. You know, when my children were 1 and 2, that didn't look like there was no flow in business. There was no flow in that because my flow was immersed with them. And that's where I chose to spend my time. And I'm really grateful that I did now because, again, I have the relationship. So for me, that's thriving. Like I've seen the world. I've wanted to do certain things throughout my life and I've been able to go and do that. So they're the tools and resources. And also too, I think I constantly invest in myself. I'm, you know, either investing my time, reading studying. I invest my money. I have mentors. I have coaches. I do workshops. I have, courses, which therefore I obviously invest my money into to create the relationship that I've got with my husband and with my children. That's been, again, a time and energy. Sometimes it's been 10 o'clock at night where we're having these types of conversations or certain things, and but we find snippets. So we're very intentional with all of that, and they're the tools, and that's the mindset. Is for me, it's how can I be more intentional in this? If say my relationship is not, something in my relationship might be a bit clunky, it might not be flowing as smoothly. It's like, where can I pour? Where do I need to look? So I'll put my intention into that. And again, for me, it's like a river. It's flow. Where am I getting to flow? It's not that I have to, got to, must. It's that I get to choose to. And they're the types. I think for me, being intentional with every single area of my life. If something isn't the way that I want it to be, I have the power to change that. And again, I've said it multiple times, but we don't change, we choose. And if I'm not changing to choose the thing that might be clunky in my relationship, the thing that might be clunky in my parenting, if I'm not upskilling, I'm choosing it to stay the same. And if I don't like it and I'm choosing it, I'm the only one to blame for that. And so for me, it's how can I live my life with more intention? How am I parenting intentionally? How am I living intentionally? How am I living, how's my relationship made and developed with intention? We're not the same people we were 14, 15 years ago when we first met. Gosh, no. We've grown together, and we could have grown apart, but we chose to grow alongside each other, but also still be intentional within our relationship. And that would be the mindset that I would share, is to be able to thrive, to be able to flow throughout life. It's get intentional, get clear with what it is how you want it to be, and work towards that.
I love it. I really do love it. It's just, it's just amazing. The last question. What made you decide to be featured on Speak Up Queen, and how does it feel knowing that there's a safe space for women to share their stories and inspire others?
For me, I am all for conspiring for people's success. And the fact that you are holding the space for women to share their journeys, and also too for the women who might not yet be ready to share their journey, but need someone to listen to be able to relate to know that they're not alone on their journey, is a real big driver for me. Because for me, I felt so alone in so many times, in so many different areas of my life. And when I was able to find that one person or that one song or that one story or whatever it might have been in that moment, that one thing that I could hold on to and go, you know what, even though I feel so alone on this planet, that person gets it. And the fact that you're holding the space to be that vehicle for women, I want to see that thrive. I want to see that grow. I want to be able to, conspire for your success, to lift you up so that you can reach more women, because there are so many women who are internally struggling, and it's really important for them to know that they're not alone, that you can grow through hardships, and that your past does not get to define who you are. And one of the other quotes that I love to say is, given all the power it took to survive, imagine what else you are capable of. Like, it takes so much time, space, and energy to keep going when you want to give up. And can you just imagine what your life could be like if, when it was ecological and safe for you to do so, to pour back into yourself, what your life could become, what you could become? And that's why I am so honored and thankful, because there are so many women who are going to see what you are doing and to be able to share their stories so that other women can hear that they are not alone. I am so grateful and honored to be a part of that space. And this space, this movement that you are creating for women to know that there are other women out there that may not be on the exact same journey, but maybe perhaps walked alongside in something similar, and they've gotten out on the other side. And if that's a message of hope. That's a message of hope for other women that are out there that may have had their voice shunned down, that may not believe that they're worthy or lovable, that may be going through their own hardship at this given moment, and they might be wanting to hold on to hope so badly, but then it's like as if they're reaching for it. You've created a safe place for that to happen. And I'm honored to be a part of that.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks, first of all, for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your story is a testament to the strength, the resilience, and the courage it takes not to only heal, but to thrive. So, to everyone listening today, remember that your voice matters, your story matters, and together we can inspire change. So if this episode touched your heart, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear this today. So until next time, Queens, keep speaking up and stepping into your power.